King Hall alongside Kevin Haynes joining from the SIBO. We have got you covered from exchange to exchange. Time now for our Cash Check segment. We're taking a look at Visa. For insight, we want to bring in our next guest. We've got Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, joining us. Landon, thank you so much for joining us. You've always got the lay of the land as it relates to sentiment data across a variety of companies. Visa today saying they're launching this stablecoin pre-funding pilot through Visa Direct. It's about cross-border payments and enabling that to happen faster. It shows that TradFi is coming closer to DeFi now with this kind of move, but it's a pilot. What's your sentiment data show you right now when you look across Visa?
Well, I tell you what, if you want to talk about this stable coin, one of the things we can look at is MasterCard, the reaction to MasterCard. It's been incredible. I mean, when you look at just the web visits, for example, you're seeing unbelievable engagement, digital engagement from users on this concept. And it actually, this is an overstatement, but it breaks our data in a sense. I mean, when we look at how strong the MasterCard data is based off of their stablecoin launch, we know that Visa is going to have one just as big, and it kind of sets the bar pretty high. So, on a year-over-year basis, Visa's at plus 6%, MasterCard's at plus 82%, which obviously we're not claiming that people are using MasterCard 82% higher than they were last year, but that's the digital engagement. So people are really buying into this concept. And I think it's kind of a must play. I mean, you have to do this as Visa because, basically they have, as close to monopoly as you can get. With MasterCard and Amex, there's very, very little competition, but the thing that could, create problems for their business is cryptocurrency and the transactions through that. I don't think Bitcoin necessarily. I think that more of that is a gold. But if you get into stable coins and very fast transactions, it can really take away from what they've got. But getting into this now, it's a defensive play. It appears to be technologically advanced. Appears to be an aggressive move, but really I feel like it's a defensive play and it's a must. And so I love what they're doing. I think it's a smart play. But yeah, we're seeing a huge reaction on the on the MasterCard move. And just today, the data that we've got on Visa is already accelerating to the upside because of this launch. So that's a big move. But when we look at the business overall, one of the things I think that's really important about Visa, MasterCard, all of them is what's the consumer doing? I mean, they're a great gauge of what the consumer is doing. So it's almost like you care more about what they report as the overall economy indicator than it is for them themselves, how well their company's doing. And I can tell you from our data, it looks like the consumer is basically spending as much as they were, but they're not as happy about it, right? They're getting pinched, they're feeling the crunch, but they have growth globally that's actually sped up slightly to 9 and 10%. So the consumer is spending more on the sentiment side, which they don't collect and we do. We're seeing, consumers are starting to flash aggressive play, however you want to call it, on the stablecoin. It's a trend that we've seen through technological innovation from them. They are not they don't just sit on their lead and just, play it old school. They've got a lot of stuff, the acquisition there, the picks in Brazil, their intelligence engine. I mean, all the things that they're doing, find more ways to ease the burden of paying and make it simpler and faster. And a lot of that I think U.S. investors are not familiar with because there's a lot of hiccups and problems when it comes to cross-border exchanges or trading in other countries or making payments. I mean, for example, in Brazil, the checkout drop-off is enormous. So that's one of the things they're trying to mitigate. And so there's it's not like it is in the U.S. everywhere. And so they're a global company and they're attacking all these different areas through technology. So they're doing a great job. They've got a great lead. They're defending it with technology and aggressive moves, or in this case, I'd call it a defensive move. But overall, very positive on Visa and generally positive on the American consumer. It's stressing people, the economy, the inflation and everything. It's stressing them, but we're not ready to pull back our spending just yet. That's kind of the take that LikeFolio has on the U.S. consumer.
The stable coin by Visa. This is a defensive play. This is keeping up with competition and fighting off competition. This is why, I remember a couple years ago we were talking about liquor company and cannabis companies, right, or stakes in them to hedge their bets going forward. I think that's a lot what Visa's doing here. They've got a dominant position, and they're just protecting that dominant position by matching what other firms are doing. That doesn't surprise me at all. But here's what, I'm going to give you a stat that's going to blow your mind, Landon, and here it is. From a company like Visa, the amount of outstanding shares, right, in 2010, so 15 years ago, was 4.38 billion outstanding shares. Right now, 1.9 billion outstanding shares. They've bought back half the company in 15 years. I mean, I've got the gradual, yearly, annual drop in their float. It's nothing short of spectacular. And you wonder why the stock looks so attractive? They've bought back half the company, Landon.
That is incredible. I did not know that. I've never heard of a company doing it to that degree. I mean, obviously share buybacks are very attractive as an investor, but I didn't know any company that's bought back half. So that's incredible. So that makes sense why they're going up so much. I mean, and they are just a cash cow. They just print money. I mean, it's the ultimate business. It's just to take 2.5% of every transaction. That's just ridiculous. And I do think really crypto is the biggest threat to that because the fees are so much lower. It can be so much faster. And so this is it's a must do defensive play. And we'll see how it all shakes out. But I also think that, not to get too far off topic, but I think this is very bullish for Bitcoin because as people see, they start to use these stable coins, they start to transact in crypto, even though it's pegged to the dollar. You're not seeing any appreciation in the coin itself, but you get comfortable with the transaction. You start to say, well, wait a minute. Why is the USDC is staying at $1 forever, but why is Bitcoin continuing to go up? And they've become comfortable with the transacting in it. So I think it's going to move more retail people into Bitcoin, or at least open their eyes to the possibility. So that's a side note, but overall, yeah, Visa, ultimate business, 2.5% of everything, and buying back their shares. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, it has been an underperformer year to date. Meanwhile, we've continued to see strong performance, at least, when we think about the leader in crypto, that's Bitcoin. So, the idea here to me for this move by Visa is also just seeing if this can be as fast as like when we send an email to somebody internationally. Can they get it that fast? Can they get their money that fast? Will these rails for real world payments work like that? We'll put a pin in our conversation. Also agree with that point that you made, Landon, about the U.S. consumer. We are not afraid to spend. Never underestimate the American consumer. Although a job could put that in jeopardy. All right, we'll leave it there. That's Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Appreciate that. Now for the trading perspective on all things